My name's Tobi from a company called Formalign, and we supply wheelchair seating across the UK and into Ireland and into Europe a little bit as well. We supply specialist cushions, specialist backrests, and for different applications, and we'll run through some of those today as well. So today, the three products we're looking at is the STX modular cushion, and then the new woven air system, which is an air cushion, very interesting, had a lot of good feedback about that as well. And then a brief session on the modular backrest system as well. So there's the three main products we're going to look at today. And obviously we would be very glad of your feedback as well. So anything towards the end of the webinar, any questions, please feel free to message in as well. Just have to say as well, this webinar is recorded as well. So if there's anyone that couldn't attend today or something we want to go back on to have a look at, it will be a recorded session as well. So firstly, kicking off with the STX modular cushion. So we've had a lot of really good feedback. It's a very popular product. We sell it into lots of wheelchair services and dealers. Lots of prescribers find it a very valuable tool. Just to note really that via MMS, the STX cushion is on the HSE contract, and it's ranked as the #1 cushion on the HSE contract. So that just shows it's interesting in terms of feedback, and it's not just a product in a catalogue. It's been out there for a long time now and very well proven. So we'll run through some of those features on the STX as well. So we're just going to run through a brief demo of that cushion and really looking at some of the applications of the cushion. So we all know, there's different sizes that we can talk about as well, but the main, you might say, where the product fits in the market in terms of client group, and just kind of having a look at that as well. So if we just run through, we're going to pop the camera onto the cushions. You can see the cushions here. So we've got the STX cushion just right here with me, and a few of the accessories that go with that cushion as well. So you'll see, to start with, the STX has a deep contour. So I'll hold it so you can see it there. A very deep contour. It's 80 millimeters from the base of the trough here to the top of the contour. So that's 80 mil. So in itself is a very valuable tool in terms of positioning. If someone needs a persuasion to sit to midline, needs a little bit of control, that is a very useful cushion there as well. What we're going to do now is have a quick look inside to show you how it actually works. Okay, so we'll take the cover off, which you can see is a fitted cover with a zip around it. So it really helps to keep everything contained. And I think that's one of the really key points about a cushion, that you can really see it's a very structured cushion. So that's what we want, isn't it, in terms of a supportive cushion within the seating to maintain posture, whether we're looking to accommodate a posture or correct. And I think that's really #1, as we all know as prescribers, is what are we trying to achieve when we're looking at seating? Is it, are we looking to correct a position? Are we looking to accommodate a position? Are we aiming to build up that tolerance over time? Do we need something that can adjust with that patient's needs? And this is where we find the STX really fits into that area. So now I've taken the cover off, you can see the foam wrap. So the pink edge there just shows it nicely in the contouring. So there's your foam wrap. And you'll notice, even with the cover off, it's a nice one-piece cushion. So you can see there, if I was a carer taking the cover off, we're reducing that risk of bits falling out and going missing and potentially being put back in the wrong place. So you've got your foam wrap, which we'll then take off. Inside is where you can see there a lot of modular sections. So the one thing to kind of note about the STX is it's very structured. It will maintain its position. Once you've set it into the position you're trying to achieve, it will hold that position. There's very limited migration, if any, and it really does hold in that position. So you can see along the base here, this is the underside of the cushion, and it's a one-piece board, and that's really a key part of the system. It's that one-piece board. It really then maintains structure. Then everything's built on top of that. So you can see the thigh wedges here. So the two thigh wedges. You can see the thigh guides here. You've got the thigh wedges at the front. So you can see the negative angle here, and we'll run through what that's for. So you can see the two thigh wedges here. And then the pommel section is split into two. So you can see the line through here. So we can start to adjust each thigh independent to each other, which makes it a very, very useful tool. So we'll just run through what we can do with it. 2 or 3 different scenarios of why I might want to adjust this cushion. So for example, someone has a wheelchair user has a leg length discrepancy. What I want to do is remove my thigh guide, remove my half of my pommel, like so, and then we'll remove the thigh wedge. And what I want to do, quite simply, is to just drop the thigh wedge forward. So you can see I've dropped that forwards on the right-hand side. I'll then pop the pommel back into position. And then likewise, my thigh guide. So straight away, within a few seconds, obviously showing you on the screen as well, we've achieved a cushion that accommodates a leg length discrepancy. What we normally say is we go up to 1 inch in terms of adjustment within a standard product and the standard cover. And we'll run through the cover a bit later on, but the cover's designed to absorb some of that asymmetry. If we go more than 1 inch, which we can do, you can go up to say 4 or 5 inches, not a problem. We would then look at a custom cover and a custom base. And that's something we can work with you and MMS team on as well. So there's your leg length discrepancy, quickly set up, very, very useful in an assessment situation to see how a user may respond in that situation. We're then going to have a look at someone, say, with a limited hip range of movement in the hip. So potentially right-hand side, we can't achieve a 90-degree hip angle. So what I would do in that situation, take my thigh guide off, take my pommel away, and then remove my thigh wedge. So remove that completely, and you can see you've got the drop down of the cushion within the base itself. And then I would put my thigh guide back on, like so, bend that to shape, and pop my pommel back on. And then you can see the different height there. You see that there, the pommel heights are different very quickly. And we're allowing for that one side to drop down lower than the right side. So you'll start to see that I'm working on this one-piece base, which is, as I said at the beginning, the structure of the cushion. And you've then got the modular sections to build up on. And then, so that's the limited hip range of movement in the hip. Then we may be looking at a, say, fixed windswept posture. So if I was to then accommodate that windswept posture, I may want to move the thigh wedge out. So if you see the cushion here, I'm then rotating the thigh wedge outwards, like so. And what I want to do, we obviously, all these components can be cut, but what I want to do is keep them one piece, if possible, to maintain that structure. So what I'd look at is Velcroing onto the wedge and then bending round. So you can see straight away, I've got very simply a setup accommodating a windswept posture. And I may be wanting to partly correct that wind sweeping or partly accommodate and partly accommodate. So I may want to, over time, change that position, and which I can do within the SDX. So I can set it where we can tolerate the correction, you might say, today, and then over time, gradually bring that thigh into midline if that is what the goals are. I then can obviously follow round. I may want to have a different pommel situation, moving my pommel around as well to work with that windswept posture. And very quickly, you can see quite a complex setup within a standard off-the-shelf cushion. So that's your, we've looked at leg length discrepancy, we've looked at limited hip range of movement there, and then the windswept posture as well, accommodating and partly correcting if that's what the goals are there. And then we'll look at the rear of the section. So you'll see there's a well within the cushion. So you can see that there. And you've got extra wedges along the front here, so that if we wanted to adjust that for any reason, we may have someone sitting with a fixed sacral position, for example. I may want to take a wedge out. Okay, so what we'd do, we'd essentially want to increase the length of that well, and I can quite simply take a wedge away, move the ramp forwards, and again, very quickly, I've increased the length of the well there. I may, for example, if I've got a windswept posture, you can see through here, I may want to, we may have some hip rotation. We want to, again, accommodate. So I can then pan things around. Okay, pan these around, and you can see straight away we're looking to accommodate that rotation, accommodate the windswept posture, and then we'd put the clusters and so on in the rear of the well. So you can start to see very quickly how we can accommodate lots and lots of different needs and changing needs within that one base. Very minimal ongoing cost within the cushion, because we can just adapt it and move around. All these parts as well are available individually. So if you've got a cushion out there, you think, do you know what, that pommel needs have changed now. This pommel on the left-hand side needs to be slightly smaller, slightly higher. That can be adapted as well as your user changes needs as well. And then we'll look at an obliquity, so a pelvic obliquity in the rear section. Every STX cushion comes with blue obliquity pads, which look like these little houses or tiles, whatever you would like to call them. And they're a closed cell foam as well. And what we can do is Velcro those in place. So we can build them up across the base of the well. And then we would put the foam wrap and so on and build up with the open cell comfort wrap as well. So very simply, you can adjust that. Now, you can see they're quite small because, as I said, if you were changing the depth of the well or the angle for rotation, etc., it may be that we want, we may have a setup where we want 2.5 of these down this side, and you can see how that's coming out of the back there. So you can trim these to suit whatever I'm trying to achieve. And likewise, if I wanted to build up this side, and whether I was looking to accommodate or correct a pelvic position, again, very useful tool to be able to do that. All right, so that's the positioning section of the STX. Then once I've essentially set my cushion up, if that was what I was trying to achieve, I can then put my foam wrap back over the top there. Now, before I do that, we have a few options around clusters and more pressure relief options as well. So the standard foam cluster has little Velcro dots here. And what we would do is sit them into the well. So a shredded foam cluster, as we call them. And we would sit them in place. Okay, so the idea of that is so the ITs can really drop into the clusters there. So the shredded foam allows for really, really good positive immersion. But along with that, some very good positioning and ability to control that position. So foam clusters, and then we put our foam wrap on top of everything there, and then we would put our cover on. Now, as mentioned before, if we've come out into a very extreme asymmetric shape, then we may have to start to trim the wrap here and have a custom cover. That is all available, all definitely doable. But yeah, just to show you what you can do within the standard cushion and cover as well. We then have, if you needed to increase the level of pressure care within the STX, we have a gel cluster pack, which comes like so. So it looks very similar to the foam cluster, but this is made of a silicone gel inside rather than fluid. And again, it's a small cluster, designed to work with that asymmetric setup, if that's what we're doing. And what we would do with the gel is we would put them on top of the foam wrap. So we'd put the foam wrap on top like so, and then we'd put the gel directly on top of the wrap there. Now, the idea being, you will know what I'm about to say, hopefully, and that is so we get the true benefit of the gel clusters in the well. So we push the foam wrap into the well, and then the gel clusters here, then the cover goes on top, and then the IT drop into the well directly. There is also another option of gel and high-level pressure care within the STX, and that is the wrap will cover, so a gel wrap that covers the entire surface of this foam area. So we would take these clusters away, and we would then put the gel wrap on top of the foam wrap. So you can see we're popping that down, and you've got the two tabs at the front, and we would then Velcro that around. And some of the benefits of that is if someone was, say, doing a side transfer or a sliding transfer into the seat cushion, it prevents the whole cushion kind of curling back on itself and so on. It just keeps it all secured and safe in so all together as one piece in the cushion. So brief summary on that: you've got the foam wrap for medium level pressure care, and you've got the gel clusters and the gel wrap for the high level pressure care as well. So looking at that posture and pressure care, that distribution of pressure, as we know, is a really key point. We could have the best pressure care cushion in the world, but actually if it's not set up properly, if we haven't got that distribution of pressure, we will always struggle. So that's the STX. I can see that time is running, so we will continue on to the next product, if that's okay. So talked modular STX cushion, and pop that over to one slide. And the next cushion, as mentioned, is the new air cushion. So the new air cushion launched sort of middle of October time last year, October time last year, and we've had some really interesting feedback. It's a static cushion, so it doesn't need a pump. It's a static cushion, and it delivers very high level pressure care. So it's a next grade up from gel, if you like. The key thing about the woven air cushion, which is this one here, is it is maintenance free. So you've got the air cushion and it's maintenance free. Now, just to briefly talk about the concept and the design point of woven air, is that there's a few cushions out there, as we know. There's the cushions that rely on air dispersion for pressure care, and there's different cushions out there that rely on cell dispersion. So some of the cushions rely on the cells within the cushion to disperse away from the points of pressure. And then others, as I say, are the air dispersion concept, where you've got points of pressure and the air disperses away from those areas. Now, what we've looked at here is a combination of both systems, where we've got air dispersion, which we know is very effective for pressure care. We've then looked at a maintenance-free option of that. So there is you don't have to keep adjusting the amounts of air within the cushion. We have a sealed air tubes, which we'll briefly look at. Maintenance-free, very lightweight and very low profile. So you've got a 90 mil high cushion, so it's very low profile, which is useful for some users. And we've also then got the ability to adjust it within each quadrant. So we'll just run through how it looks inside. So woven air, you've got your very stretchy outer cover. So you can see that really stretchy outer cover, which again, we know works very well for pressure care, effective pressure care. We'll undo the zip. We then have an inner cover. Again, very stretchy. Okay. We've then got, I'll show you the one side. We've then got inside lots of air tunnels, which are the black sections here. You can see running across the cushion. and then the air tubes woven inside. So I'll briefly show you. So this is one of the air tubes, and it looks inflated, deflated, should we say? Looks like it's got a puncture, but this is all the air you need in the tube. And what we find is as you coil it through, if I put some pressure downwards, it will tend to balloon out and it's not stable, which is not what we want, obviously. If we then put the same air tube in that plane, so woven, as you can see, same pressure, the air disperses away from the points of pressure. Okay. If you then contain that tube in a vertical plane in the air tunnels, which you can see here, so you can see they're woven through the air tunnel, we then have a very stable base for that person to sit onto. And in each quadrant, so you can see there's a quadrant here and a quadrant here. So you've got a tube running end to end through that quadrant. And as standard, we've got in this cushion here, we've got 4 tubes, and that's a very, you might say, average setup for the cushion. But if you were thinking, okay, how do we inflate it? How do we adjust it for someone? Simply, we would add in another tube. Okay, so you can essentially increase the pressure through adding a tube, or if we wanted to deflate it to get maybe more immersion, we may want to then take a tube away from the cushion. So we're then deflating it in that way. However, the difference is this is a sealed tube and it's had a lot of testing on the tube, and it's very minimal chance of it leaking air and so on, based on the testing that's been done. And essentially what you then get is a very stable air cushion, and there's no compartment within the cushion that has a non-stretch fabric. So every material between the user and the air, there's a stretchable cover. So whether it's the outer cover, the inner cover, or the air tunnel, they're all stretchy. So we don't need any non-stretch material to contain the cells. The other thing you'll notice, and again, feedback we've had, if this is the front of the cushion, this is the back and the backrest here. As people do side transfers and so on, so standing transfers, side transfers, these air tubes, they don't bank up at the back of the seat. So lots of other cushions that we know of, as we slide back into the wheelchair, a lot of the cells will start to bank up here, preventing that user, so we've got a bit of a ridge, preventing the user from getting to the back of the wheelchair. So i.e. the seating that isn't then very effective. What we found with this one, and again, as I said, based on feedback, that user can slide all the way back to the seat cushion with nothing banking up. Okay, size-wise, we start this cushion at 14 inch, so 14 inch by 14 inch, and we go all the way up to 20 inches by 20 inches, and we can go larger than that as well if required. The safe working load, or the user weight limit, is 180 kg. So we've got a high weight limit on the cushion, and there's been lots and lots of testing done, as I say, on that. Now, we've just looked at the SDX cushion and we've said, okay, there's the positioning, and you might be thinking, could we have the air system with positioning? The answer is we can. I'll show you how that works. So we've looked at the base cushion, the full cushion there, and zip that one up. And we then have a positioning base like so. And you can see the contouring and the well cut out here as well there. And what we can do is actually buy this separately. So with all of our products, they're all component based. So you can buy the air cushion if you need to then upgrade for changing needs and so on. We can buy the positioning base separately, insert that into the original cushion, Velcro this onto my base. So you can see you've got the full air system, and then you've got the well here and the ramping at the front. And then you can see the contouring here, so we can actually start creating some significant contouring. And because the cover is so stretchy, we don't need a custom cover. So we can simply zip that through. So we've brought that one in, positioning base, zip the outer cover through, and away we go. So you've got your Velcro on the base and your positioning there as well. Now, with things like a pelvic obliquity, we have obliquity pads like the STX that we can put underneath the air cells. So we don't need to necessarily do the positioning through the air. We can do that, but typically we find if we can keep the air consistent running through the cushion, and then we use the proven closed cell foam block for the positioning aspect as well. So that's the brief overview on woven air. So far we've covered STX and then woven air. And I say tubes are available separately as well. So we can purchase those as a separate piece to then add and take away according to each need as well for the user. So I'll just see how we're doing for time. I think we're on track. Yeah, that's all good. We'll just then fire away on the backrest system, if that's okay. So briefly, so talked about two of the cushions that we use. We've then got a modular backrest we'll just briefly touch on. So FormAlign do a range of backrests. We do a deep contour shoulder height. So you've got your deep contour, you can see there, and then the shoulder height, so a tall backrest, which we can touch on maybe a bit later, but there's some interesting feedback around some of the hardware and the ease of fixing as well. We're going to touch on today, this last part of the webinar, the backrest itself, as in the support backrest. You can see the orange thoracic supports here as well. And just to really put across to all of the backrests we sell, so we do the deep contour one-piece backrest, and then the contour, and then this support, which is a shallow contour. All the hardware is the same. So the fixing, the way I'm showing you today, how it's fitted to the wheelchair is all the same. So we'll touch on the hardware first of all, how you adjust it and so on, and then we'll look at how we adjust those laterals and how versatile it is. So briefly, I'll just spin this one around to show you. The feedback we have sort of, very regularly really is it's so easy to work with. It's very straightforward, easy to adjust, easy to fit. Now, the hardware itself, you can see is a quick release system. Flick up like that, the blue tabs, and we lift the system off, okay? So lift that one off like that. You can see then the silver sections here, which then drop into the channels either side. So really, really straightforward when we're taking it off on a daily basis. If we're folding the chair, putting it in the back of a car, for example, or if we're simply setting it up in clinic, or if we're installing it, handing the chair over, it's nice and straightforward to fit. Now, the clamps here are nice and compact, so you can see those on there. I'll just take that off. 50mm clamp, so nice and compact, and they will fit onto any, I say pretty much any back post, round back post, measuring from 17mm up to 25mm, which means you don't need any spacers, you don't need to worry about ordering extra components to make it fit. That is a standard piece of the clamp. Then we have the triple lock bolts here. Now, the idea of the triple lock bolt system is that if you're taking it in and out of the car regularly, taking the backrest off, this is what then stays onto the frame of the chair, and we don't want those to rotate. So if they can be really locked on well, and the triple lock, again, from feedback we've had, really holds that good position as well. So that's the mounting. Then we put the sections down here, and then we simply make sure it's on there, and then we push down and lock it off there as well. I'll just run through then the adjustment in terms of seat depth adjustment and back angle and shell height. So if we're setting it up essentially for a user. So using my three tools, dual metric, so a 5mm Allen key, 4mm Allen key, and a 10mm ratchet, I can then adjust from behind. Everything's done from behind. If you've got a user in the chair, you want to make some fine tuning on the handover, I can be whacking off my 10mm bolts and rotate so we can rotate the shell, we can drop it back in terms of seat depth as well. And then you can see, if I just bring that round, so come forward, and then the back angle adjustment as well on there as well. So all within those 4 bolts, back angle adjustment, seat depth adjustment as well. Then you can see in terms of shell height, so if I'm stepping it, so we've got a good shoulder height position here, I can slacken off my 4 nuts to either side, and you can see really quickly that you can adjust the height very quickly as well. So that's your setting it up of the backrest. Very, very versatile, very easy to adjust, very adaptable. And the one thing to say as well is it will fit, so the same hardware across all backrests. And I think that's the key point here. Everything I've showed you, it's the same across all backrests. And again, feedback we have is it's straightforward to work with. We'll then look at the thoracic support. So actually, just before we do that, just one point is the seat depth adjustment. It's worth making a note of that we can achieve up to 7 inches worth of depth adjustment on the backrest movement, because the rearward facing clamp, so you can see it here, we can also have it forward facing, and that achieves the 7 inches worth of depth adjustment, and it's crash tested in both directions, so rearward facing and forward facing. So it's worth just seeing that to say, do you know what, I want to achieve a shorter seat depth to allow for some growth or something, then we can achieve it very, without that worry of safety issues there as well. So we'll then just jump on to thoracic supports. Okay. So here's your shell itself. You've got lots of holes there, and you'll notice running from top to bottom is a long slot, and that runs all the way through. The idea of that is to allow for ease of adjustment, so we can simply adjust it wherever we want those lateral positions to be. So again, from outside, I'm adjusting that lateral. So I'm going to just show you there. So I'm saying, okay, I want to adjust my lateral, and I can do that very easily. However, you may say, oh, you've set your shell up, you've set your clamps on the wheelchair, everything's set up, and I want to get that pad a little bit lower. Maybe there's some scoliosis happening. I want some really good 3-point positioning happening to offset some of that loading. So I want that pad slightly lower. So with the low rise bracket, you can see stacking these 2 bolts up here, again, all from outside, and I can then further adjust my lateral pad as well. So if I drop that right the way down, and I may want to have a bigger pad, so you can see the big teardrop pad here, have that lower down, and then my smaller pad here to offer that upper correction. So again, I may want to bring that pad up. So with that. Okay. And you can straight away see that there's that correction there. So I may want to angle that as well to create the position I need. So upper support for that correction and that lower block. So some of that 3-point positioning happening, and then obviously we can swing that away as well. Briefly, in terms of lateral positioning, so in terms of chest width, we can in-rig the laterals as well. So you can see within the bracket, I go from that position and I can in-rig like so. So you can see going to essentially a Z bracket within itself. And I can then tighten the rear section up, and then I can also then make sure the pad we've got full contact surface around that pad area there as well. So once I've positioned that, I can then tighten that one up. And then I may want to move my pad as well. So if I show you here, we've got a couple more bolts inside, and we can start to angle whether we bring the pad further forward or further back, like so. So if there's some rotation happening as well, or if we wanted to move my pad position as well for function, say for self-propelling or different functions, different activities, we can obviously set that accordingly as well. So as you see, all done within the one bracket, and I think that's the key point, that there's minimal components. It's not complex in terms of needing lots and lots of components. There is a few components with a lot of adjustment within the system itself. So I think we're nearly there on time. Trish could probably help us at this time just to round off. I think that's pretty much time up. If there was any questions or anything, I guess Trish can jump on and just. Okay, so I don't think there's any questions as such. So yeah, I hope it's been useful, the session today. I'm sorry about the delayed start as well. So that was a few IT issues there, but we've essentially covered those three products: the SDX modular cushion, the new woven air cushion, and then the support backrest. As I said, there's a whole range of components that we offer for the prescriber, but we're very glad to support and help through the MMS team as well in your area. So really appreciate your time. Thank you very much.